Good morning, everybody. It's LSP. It's currently the 19th of May, 2022. So we're going to do a quick rundown on the general market today. As you can see, Bitcoin is slowly starting to creep lower. We've gone below sort of 29,000, kind of hovering around sort of 28.8, 28 sort of 7, which, to be fair, is to be expected. One of the things that I've tried to really emphasize in all the videos that I do is when we wait for confirmation, we allow price to just filter through and eventually settle where it needs to settle, right? So there's a lot of news and news articles, a lot of different sources of news that say Bitcoin is being, heavily accumulated in this area, right? Now, if that's the case, as we've said many times before, excuse me, then shouldn't we really see a move to the upside? Now, this isn't always the case. This isn't always, just because something's being bought, it means it's going to go up. For example, let's say down at these levels here, that there is a huge amount of orders, to be absorbed, to be bought, to be accumulated, and it's going to take some time to get through this. What can happen is from this point where we are now to the lower level down here, let's say sort of 24,300 or so, it is possible that price is, accumulating, starts to pick up more liquidity down here, and then we get a bit of a run to the upside. Which leads me to a really important point. When we have these levels on our charts, they're not just levels that we expect price to bounce from or, price to move away from, whether up or down. They signify levels where price should find something. And this is the key point here. It's not like a support and resistance. It's not supply and demand, right? I'm not expecting, and this is so key, I'm not expecting price to bounce from here. If it gets there, I want to see what the reaction is, because that will confirm what's going to happen next or where price is likely to go. For example, you can see that when price initially went down here, we had a really nice response away from that. That's clue number one, that we could potentially be going higher, right? So we monitor it on the lower time frames. We see what happens after this, starts to go sideways, which changes the narrative. The first narrative was if it continues to go to the upside, then we can expect a small pullback maybe, but then we have a much different picture. This may be in play, 37.6 to around about sort of 40,000. This isn't happening. So it shows something a little bit different. It shows that price is stabilizing in this area between 29,000 and 31,000. And in doing so, it may be accumulating to then need to go lower to find more liquidity down here at sort of 24, 25,000 to again pick up more, buy side liquidity. So it's about confirmation. It's about trying to figure out whether or not Bitcoin needs to go lower. Now, it looks like that is indeed the case. This is why these levels on the chart, I want to see whether or not price is showing an indication that it wants to go down there. If we go over to the 4-hour chart, if you remember, we can see that we're consolidating in this area, okay? So ultimately, if it just starts to kind of bleed lower, right? Unless a huge injection comes in to really get price moving, it's unlikely that this isn't just going to continue to bleed lower, right? 25,000 seems like it's the place where price wants to kind of go. So with all of that said, we need to be cautious. We need to be careful. If we go over to Binance, again, Binance is showing, or at least holding its own here just a little bit more, right? The range is tighter. We've had the first pickup here off liquidity. Seems to just be grinding. Obviously still following suit in terms of what Bitcoin is doing, hovering around about sort of 293, 294. But ultimately, I am still not expecting, but waiting for something to say price wants to go to around about sort of 340, 350. It may be short-lived if that happens. So if price does indeed start to drive towards sort of 340, it may go there and then just completely collapse. Who knows, right? And obviously, with what's going on in the stock market, I'm going to be keeping an eye on the markets today. For us over here, it'll be 2:30 in the afternoon. US equities open, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. I want to see what happens, because obviously the markets over in the US, they've been taking a bit of a tumble over the last day or so, and it's really important. I think if that happens and cryptocurrencies can stabilize and maintain these areas, I think we're in good shape. But ultimately, think about this. If, let's just go to the Dow, for example, right? So if the Dow opens and continues to drive lower, right? And I'll just quickly point out, how should we do this? Yeah, I'll just quickly point out this gap here, right? So this gap right here, if price does continue to go, it's very possible that we see, sort of sub 29,000, on the Dow Jones, right? It's no stretch of the imagination. It's more than doable in terms of volatility. If that continues to happen and it pushes price all the way down to sort of sub 29, give or take, right? Then that's a pretty decent move. This will affect cryptocurrency. Okay, it is going to affect Bitcoin. And it would kind of line up in the sense of, the general markets outside of cryptocurrency pulling everything down, slowly filtering into cryptocurrency, slowly pulling, Bitcoin down to said levels, 24, 25, for example, right? But with that much money, and as I was saying in one of the previous videos about money flows coming out of the stock market, is it coming into cryptocurrency? This is just another confirmation that it's not. As I've said, I like to look at where the money is, where it's going, or at least in this case, where it's not going. It's not coming into cryptocurrency. If it was, we would see it. One of the worst things that can happen going forward is money comes out of the stock market or some of these traditional financial, instruments, and finds a little bit of that finds its way into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is the only thing that's being accumulated. Then as it starts to go up, a lot of these altcoins and projects and everything else, they're going up pretty much on nothing. Yeah, this is not a good scenario because ultimately it's going to make it so much easier for price to effectively just collapse because there's no support there, there's no momentum, there's no buying, there's nothing really. It's just basic math. Binance is going up, for example. Binance, or BSC chain related projects are going up as well, but there's no real buying there. Same with Ethereum. On the Ethereum network, same with the Polygon network, same with Phantom. It's all, these things we have to be mindful of and be careful of, because ultimately when we're looking at a candlestick chart like this, price is just a representation of, whatever it's doing in the moment. Yeah, but just because we see a strong red candle down, for example, that does not always necessarily mean price is selling. There's a lot of different ways we can look at this. And just to kind of finish up what I'm saying before we sort of shoot off. This down candle here, for example, we'll just use this one. You see that and you say, okay, price is selling, people are selling out of Bitcoin. Not necessarily. Yeah, because you could say maybe people are taking profits. Yeah, it may seem like a subtle difference, but it's a big difference, because if a majority of people are using this opportunity to sell, yeah, why are they doing that? Are they taking profits? What if they got in here and they're still in profit? Or what if they got here and they're selling because it's a stop loss, or they're selling because they just want to get out the market because they're not sure. There's a lot of different variables and a lot of different reasons why people get in and out of things, right? So we want to be careful not to just say, it's a down candle, everybody's selling, panic, let's go. It's an up candle, everything's bullish, let's go. Labels are dangerous, I think, personally. This is why I don't use them in my trading. This is why you never really hear me say bullish or bearish or so on. So the most important thing going forward, is we want to see this effectively do what it needs to do and just do it quickly. Yeah. I've had a sneaky suspicion that we're going to be grinding for a little while. And as we can see on Ethereum here, there's plenty of reason for Ethereum to go lower below these lows. Around about 1500, nobody wants to see that, especially, miners and some of the people out there that are doing, or basically on the borderline now, whether mining's even profitable, right? So again, it's about being cautious, it's about being patient, careful, and ultimately, this is a different chart, but ultimately as Bitcoin starts to drive, it could very well find its way into the 20,000 level, maybe sub 20. But there's, there's a lot going on. We'll keep an eye on, the US equities market, we'll keep an eye on global markets, see where that money's kind of, sort of flowing out and flowing in, to certain areas. And I'll continue obviously to do updates, and hopefully, whatever it is that's going to happens pretty soon, so we can all just, kind of get on with it, right? So I hope everyone's having an awesome day, and I'll catch up with you guys hopefully in an afternoon market review. It's probably going to happen today because I want to actually see what happens with US equities open, and we'll kind of get a feel for whether or not that's going to spill over into cryptocurrency. All right, guys, take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Ciao.